welcome to Barca News. It is June 4th, 2026, and Barcelona have identified the successor of Hansi Flick. Also, Deco has held talks with Castello Lukeba. And finally, Bernardo Silva willing to wait for Barcelona. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and welcome to another video about filled with news about our beloved club FC Barcelona. Starting with the great news that, ladies and gentlemen, our coach Hans-Dieter Flick has won the coach of the season for the 2025-2026 season, and that of course is amazing news. Very, very well-deserved news for our own coach, who of course has once again won La Liga, once again won the Spanish Super Cup, and during this season Barcelona won 31 matches, drew 1 and lost 6. Of course, 2 of those losses coming after we secured La Liga, and then of course Barcelona getting a total of 94 points and making history in the process because we won 19 out of 19 home matches. Historical feat for Hansi Flick, who, by the way, is winning this award for the second time in a row. He also won Coach of the Year during last season. Very well-deserved for Hans-Dieter Flick, who arrived at a Barcelona they had a team that was incredibly young, a club that didn't have any money or financial fair play margin to make any big signings or to bring anything that Hansi Flick wanted to bring in, yet he did what he could with what he had, and well, that has been a total of 5 trophies, 2 La Ligas, 2 Spanish Super Cups, and a Copa del Rey. So thank you, Hansi Flick, for what you've done for Barcelona so far, and of course, congratulations on this very, very well-deserved award, the second, again, consecutive award for Coach of the Year. Now, speaking of Hansi Flick, of course, we know that the German will not be here at the club forever. He said it multiple times that, you know, he's in his 60s, so he's thinking about retiring eventually. In fact, Barcelona will be his final club. He wants to, you know, spend time with his family, with his grandkids. And even though he did renew recently, he only renewed until 2028. So, of course, Barcelona are now thinking about who could be the next successor for Hansi Flick. And well, they have identified the former Barcelona player Cesc Fabregas, a academy graduate, of course. He came up through La Masia, also played at Barcelona. And well, now he is the current coach of Como, where he has had an incredibly 3 successful seasons. During his first season with Como, he got him promoted from 2nd to 1st division, from Serie B to Serie A. During his second season, which was his debut season in 1st division with Como, they ended up top 10, which you might top 10 might not sound like that great, but when it's your first season in 1st division, it is a pretty good accomplishment. And during his 3rd season, which was the season that just ended, he has finished now top 4 and has taken Como to the Champions League. Incredible feat by Cesc Fabregas and Como. And as such, Barcelona now considering him as a successor for Hansi Flick. A coincidence, by the way, Hansi Flick's contract, like I said, expires in 2028. So does Fabregas' contract with Como. So, you know, it would be a perfect timing for the former Barcelona player. Now, do not think that this news means that Barcelona are looking to get rid of Flick or fire Flick or anything like that. No, Barcelona will have Flick for as long as he will have us. If he ends up deciding that he wants to be here for the next 10 years, that would be the plan, to keep him for the next 10 years. But, of course, that's not Flick's plan as of now. This is why he's been renewing 1 year at a time, because Flick, as he said in the past, Barcelona will be his final club. He's thinking, you know, about retiring soon, wants to spend time with his family. So, you know, only once Flick decides to leave is when Barcelona will consider Cesc Fabregas. Of course, my question to you is, what do you think about Cesc Fabregas? Would you like to see him at Barcelona? Yes, no, maybe. Let me know below in the comment section. Now, before we move on to the next bit of news, I do want to take a quick pause because yesterday someone during the podcast said, Mo, have you heard about Barcelona being linked to Cambiaso? And since then, I've been getting a lot of messages through my social media accounts, private DMs. People are, hey, Mo, have you heard about this? Have you heard about this? Have you heard about this? So I'm not going to address it in this video or at all because that's actually pretty old news. So don't think I'm not addressing it because I'm not aware. I am pretty aware. And in fact, if you go to the channel, right, if you go to the channel here, as you can see, if you type in Cambiaso, the first time we talked about it was literally 2 months ago. Right here, I'll even zoom in. It was 2 months ago, Barca I Cambiaso. We talked about it again 7 days ago about Barcelona considering Cambiaso. So I am pretty aware of it. I talked about it in the past. I'm not going to talk about it now because it's really not new news. It's pretty old news. So this is why I'm not going to address it. And of course, I'll take this opportunity to remind you, subscribe to this channel because if you want the most up-to-date Barca news, well, this is where you're going to find it. If you want month-old news, well, there's other places you can go to. But for the most up-to-date news, you can come here to Barca. Of course, I mentioned this again because people have been messaging me and because I've been seeing it all over social media. Barca and Cambiaso. And it's like, yeah, I know. I talked about it already. But it is. Let's move on to the next bit of news because, ladies and gentlemen, the vultures are circling one of the most exciting talents currently in La Masia, who is no other than Ebrima Tunkara. Now, you guys might have heard of this name before. I've talked about him in the channel previously. Ebrima Tunkara, 16-year-old attacker currently in La Masia. He's considered the most exciting talent currently in La Masia. And in fact, his coaches have compared his rise to that of Lamine Yamal. Now, let me clarify. This doesn't mean that his coaches are saying he's the next Lamine Yamal. Kind of like when every time we hear the next Messi, we've heard that a million times about all these people who are supposed to be the next Messi. No, that's not what the coaches are saying. They're not saying Ebrima Tunkara is the next Lamine. What they're saying is that his rise through the academy categories has been as meteoric as Lamine Yamal. In other words, he's been climbing through categories just as fast as Lamine Yamal. In fact, Ebrima Tunkara, again, who's only 16 years old, has already featured with Barca Athletic. Now, given his age, he should be playing in the Cadete, right? Cadete, remember, there's Cadete B, Cadete A, Juvenil B, Juvenil A, and then Barca Athletic. He's supposed to be all the way down here. Instead, he's all the way up here playing with Barca Athletic. And in fact, Hansi Flick is set to call him up to the preseason, which just goes to show how fast he's progressing through the academy and how he is playing against kids who are much, much older than him. And of course, he's playing way above his age category. Now, Ebrima Tunkara, of course, is known for his powerful physical profile, his technical quality, and his excellent left foot or exquisite left foot. So kind of like Lamine Yamal, but more physical profile. And again, Ebrima Tunkara considered one of the most exciting talents. And in fact, scouts from Manchester City, Manchester United, and Juventus have been seen at Spain's matches, Spain under 17 in the European Cup matches, watching Ebrima Tunkara because, of course, he is attracting attention left and right. But the good news is that Ebrima Tunkara wants Barca and Barcelona only. Why do I bring this up? Because, you know, amongst all this hype of talking about signings, Julian or Joao Pedro or this guy or that guy, you know, we must always forget that at the end of the day, we do have the greatest academy in the world. And even though, yes, it is nice to sign these big names, we cannot forget that our academy has brought us the likes of Messi, of Iniesta, of Xavi, of Puyol, Busquets, Piqué. Now we have Lamine, Cubarsí, Gabi, Fermin. And as you think this academy cannot do any better, boom, right behind them comes this guy, Ebrima Tunkara. So sure, it is nice to sign players. It is nice to talk about players that Barcelona are considering signing. But let's not forget, we have the greatest academy in the world, the greatest factory of talent right at home. And well, Ebrima Tunkara, yet another name of the millions of names that we have to look forward to. Now, speaking of the market, coming back to talking about names and signings, we do have to talk about the bombshell news today because, ladies and gentlemen, out of nowhere, Deco has held talks with Castello Lukeba. Yes, all these names that we've been hearing about Barcelona being linked to Bastoni. Of course, that was real. But then the interest cooled off, and then we were hearing about all these other defenders. Well, all of a sudden, we hear that Deco has held talks with Lukeba. If you don't know who Lukeba is, 23 years old, left-footed center back, currently playing at Leipzig. Incredible potential. Someone who has a contract with Leipzig until 2029, but is now looking to leave in order to take the next big step, right? To go to a bigger, more competitive club. And even and when it seemed that Arsenal was kind of like the club that was pushing more for him, all of a sudden, boom, came in like a wrecking ball. Deco has now held talks with Castello Lukeba, and it's reported that now Castello Lukeba has put pause for any talks or negotiations with Arsenal on any other club because he wants to see whether a move to Barcelona is possible. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter what financial situation we might be in, people still want to play at Barcelona. Never, ever, ever forget that. Now, Lukeba does have an 80 million euro release clause. However, it's being speculated that he could leave Leipzig for around 40 million because he hasn't renewed with Leipzig. So that's what they're saying the price could be. Now, of course, the talks have been held with Lukeba, but this doesn't mean that Barcelona are going to be signing him tomorrow. So don't go out and buy a Barca kit with Lukeba's name on it. He is definitely a main, kind of like on the main list of possible center back reinforcements. But as you know, right now, the main priority is the center forward. Once the center forward is signed, then Barcelona will move forward to try to bring a center back. But for that, there has to be an exit first. So we'll see. But just know that Deco has held talks with Lukeba. Now, let's end today's video with the news that, ladies and gentlemen, Bernardo Silva has now decided to wait for Barcelona because, of course, his main priority remains Barcelona. Now, as you know by now, Bernardo Silva's contract expires at the end of this month. He will become a free agent. He's been offering himself to Barcelona left and right. Hansi Flick has okayed this operation. However, Flick first wants to see an exit before Bernardo Silva arrives. Maybe Casado, or maybe Rooney Bardghji. Bardghji most likely will be leaving this summer. He's already spoken to his agent. He wants to leave since Flick told him he doesn't count on him. Marc Casado, we don't know yet. On one hand, he wants to stay in Barcelona. On the other hand, he's not getting minutes. But whoever it might be, Flick wants to see an exit first before Bernardo Silva arrives. And this is why Barcelona have not moved forward with this signing. Now, of course, this originally presented a problem because Bernardo Silva wanted to figure out his future before the World Cup, which is about to start in a few days. And that, of course, also was complicated by the fact that Atletico Madrid were making a push for him. And as opposed to Barcelona, Atletico Madrid were offering to sign him right now. Like, let's do it right now. Don't have to wait until after the World Cup or until exits or anything. Atletico Madrid were looking to sign him immediately. They were looking to make an important piece, a main piece of their project. And they were going to make him, the starter right away, the star, all of that, as opposed to Barcelona, where Bernardo Silva, again, Barcelona are waiting first for an exit before they can move for him. He would not be a central piece of the project. He wouldn't even be necessarily a starter. He would have to come and compete with 7 other midfielders, possibly 6 if Casado leaves. And as far as the right wing, of course, he would have to compete with Lamine Yamal, who's the best in the world, and he's not going to take his spot. So that was kind of like complicating things for Barcelona. But by Bernardo Silva saying, I'm willing to wait until after the World Cup, that means he's saying to Atletico, sorry, bro, not interested. I want to join Barcelona. Now, it's reported that Silva and his agent, Jorge Mendes, of course, are aware that Barcelona need an exit first, and this is why they're willing to wait until after the World Cup. Anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. That is all the news for this video, or I guess for this short live. I got pretty too late today. I had to work late, so I couldn't film, edit, and post. Instead, I decided to do this short live to bring you the news. This is not a podcast, of course, so I will not be, unfortunately, reacting to your comments live. I do have to go to sleep. I got to work tomorrow. But tomorrow is podcast day, so I hope to see you guys there tomorrow. I can, of course, read you guys' comments live and react to them. But for now, this is all. I bid you guys adieu. I will see you guys tomorrow in the podcast. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, peace, guys.